All right. Okay. I hope my screen is visible. One second, just 1 second. Yeah. Okay. So we finished off. We successfully completed the third chapter of the
Prabhu,
Bhagavad
I am
Gita.
seeing the prayer screen actually.
Oh, sorry. Thank you,
Yeah, now
bro.
it's perfect. Okay.
Yeah. So we successfully finished the third chapter of the Bhagavad Gita entitled Karma Yoga yesterday, where we discussed as part of the third chapter the entire understanding about where Krishna highlighted the understanding of lust and where lust arises, where is the place where lust resides, and the ways and means by which we can conquer over this enemy of lust. So that is where we ended yesterday. So let's start with the fourth chapter. Today, the fourth chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is entitled Transcendental Knowledge. So we can start with the prayers, and I can probably discuss how we can start with the verse and read the purport, and I can discuss the link between the two after that. Pavitra, will you be able to read?
Yes, Prabhu.
Please go ahead.
Yeah. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Imam Visvate Yogam Proktavan Aham Avyayam Viswas Vivaswan Manave Praha Manur Ikswakave Bhavit. Translation: The personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna said, I instructed this imperishable science of yoga to the sun god Vivaswan, and Vivaswan instructed it to Manu, the father of mankind, and Manu in turn instructed it to Ikshvasku. Purport. Herein we find the history of the Bhagavad Gita traced from a remote time when it was delivered to the royal order of all planets, beginning from the sun planet. The king of all planets are especially meant for the protection of the inhabitants, and therefore the royal order should understand the science of Bhagavad Gita in order to be able to rule the citizens and protect them from material bondage to lust. Human life is meant for cultivation of spiritual knowledge in eternal relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the executive heads of all states and all planets are obliged to impart these lessons to the citizens by education, culture, and devotion. In other words, the executive heads of all states are intended to spread the science of Krishna consciousness so that the people may take advantage of this great science and pursue a successful path utilizing the opportunity of the human form of life. In this millennium, the sun god is known as Vivaswan, the king of sun, which is the origin of all planets within the solar system. In the Brahma Samhita, it is stated, Yakasur. Yeah, sure.
Okay, I can. Yachakshuresh savita sakala grahana Raja samassa suramurti rashesha teja Yasyajnaya brahmati samvritta chakro Govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. Please go ahead.
Let me worship, Lord Brahma said, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda, Krishna, who is the original person and under whose order the sun, which is the king of all planets, is assuming immense power and heat. The sun represents the eye of the Lord and traverses its orbit in obedience to his order. The sun is the king of all planets, and the sun god at present of the name Vivaswan rules the sun planet, which is controlling all other planets by supplying heat and light. He is rotating under the order of Krishna, and Lord Krishna originally made Vivaswan his first disciple to understand the science of Bhagavad Gita. The Gita is not, therefore, a speculative treatise for the insignificant mundane scholar, but but is a standard book of knowledge coming from the time immemorial. In the Mahabharata, we trace out the history of the Gita as follows.
त्रेतायुगादौ च ततो विवस्वान् मनवेददौ मनुष्यलोकभृति अर्थं सुतयेक्ष्वकवे ददौ इक्ष्वाकुना च कथितो व्याप्या लोकान् अवस्थितः. Go ahead.
In the beginning of the millennium known as Treta Yuga, the science of the relationship with the Supreme was delivered by Vivaswan to Manu. Manu, being the father of mankind, gave it to his son Maharaja Ikshvaku, the king of this earth planet Ikshvaku, the king of the earth planet and forefather of the Raghu dynasty in which Lord Ramachandra appeared. Therefore, Bhagavad Gita existed in human society from the time of Maharaja Ikshvaku. At the present moment, we have just passed through 5,000 years of the Kali Yuga, which lasts 432,000 years. Before this, there was Dwapara Yuga, 800,000 years, and before that, there was Treta Yuga, 1.2 million years. Thus, some 2 million years ago, Manu spoke the Bhagavad Gita to his disciple and son Maharaja Ikshvaku, the king of this planet Earth. The age of the current Manu is calculated to last some 305 million years, of which 120.4 million years have passed. Accepting that before the birth of Manu, the Gita was spoken by the Lord to his disciple, the sun god Vivaswan, a rough estimate is that the Gita was spoken at least 120 billion years ago, and in human society, it has been extant for 2 million years. It was re-spoken by the Lord again to Arjuna about 5,000 years ago. This is a rough estimate of the history of the Gita according to the Gita itself and according to the version of the speaker, Lord Sri Krishna. It was spoken to the sun god Vivaswan because he is also a Kshatriya and is the father of all Kshatriyas who are descendants of the sun god or the Surya Vamsa Kshatriyas. Because Bhagavad Gita is as good as the Vedas, being spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this knowledge is aparaseya, superhuman. Since the Vedic instructions are accepted as they are, without human interpretation, the Gita must therefore be accepted without mundane interpretation. The mundane wranglers may speculate on the Gita in their own ways, but this is not Bhagavad Gita as it is. Therefore, Bhagavad Gita has to be accepted as it is from the disciplic succession, and it is described herein that the Lord spoke to the sun god spoke to his son Manu, and Manu spoke to his son Ikshvaku.
Thank you so much, Pavitra. This was a rather long purport. I'll try to highlight some points and discuss this words and its purport. So now one may think that why is there like a sudden twist of events over here? Until yesterday, we've been discussing about lust and where lust is and how to conquer lust and all of this. And suddenly, where did this get into a history class where we are learning so much about these dynasties and where this knowledge came? So this is not random if you think about it. So the last translation for the last verse is, thus knowing oneself to be transcendental to the material senses and intelligent, and by developing this by deliberate spiritual intelligence, one is able to conquer this. So if you see, the title of this chapter is Transcendental Knowledge. So now Krishna, after telling Arjuna on how to conquer lust by developing transcendental intelligence or spiritual intelligence, is now giving the way of this transcendental knowledge. So over here, Krishna is explaining how this transcendental knowledge has been So basically, he's telling about the origin of this transcendental knowledge and how this knowledge has been there from time immemorial. How this knowledge has been passed down from the sun god for so many years to his son, the from the sun god Vivaswan. He instructed it to Manu, and Manu instructed it to Ikshvaku, and how this knowledge was being passed down over years and years together. So I was just contemplating on this about how, if you remember, when we read as part of the third chapter, Krishna talks about there is a verse where Krishna talks that there are various kings who have perfected their lives by practicing this transcendental knowledge. That gave us a hint that this transcendental knowledge was always present. This is not something that Krishna is telling Arjuna for the first time. And that's why the word, sorry, the word over here for this transcendental knowledge is called apaurushya or superhuman. This is something that has existed from time immemorial. So, one thing that we understand is that these scriptures are not something that came into existence at a certain point of time. They were there since the dawn of existence or from the start of existence. One way we can understand is that this material world or this nature has provided everything for the sustenance of mankind from time immemorial. It's not like something that after the Stone Age only that people started surviving. There was food, water, shelter, light, everything that was necessary, even 1,000 years back, even 5,000 years back, and it is going to be there even say 500 or 1,000 years from now as well. Because all of this is provided by Mother Nature. And who has provided this to Mother Nature? That was the Lord Himself. So the example given in this context is that when a father gives a child a toy to play with, if that toy requires a electricity cord, the father also has to provide that cord of electricity in order for that toy to work. He also has to give the child the manual in order to learn how to play with the toy, in order to enjoy the toy completely. In the same way, the Lord created this material universe, material world for all of us because we wanted to enjoy independent of the Lord. And when He created this, He made all facilities for us to survive in it. Along with that, He also gave us the Vedas in the form of the Gita and all the Upanishads to understand what our real purpose is. And that is why this knowledge is apaurushya or superhuman. And that is how this has been coming down from time immemorial for all of us to learn and understand that what our real purpose in life is and how we can achieve that purpose. That was one point I wanted to highlight. And then we also understand that there was a other thing, that these are the king of planets that is described in this. So this also highlights the other aspect, that why having leaders of society to be knowledgeable is important. We read this again as part of the third chapter where Krishna says that acharati shrestha tat tat, that whatever the leaders of the society will do, the common populace follows. The leaders of the society have a great responsibility in inculcating a culture which supports the growth of the population, common population, the spiritual growth of the common population, and for them to learn and get this culture of devotion. I hope this made some sense, and this puts this verse and the entire purport in some context. If anyone has any other questions, any comments, any doubts, please feel free to add before we move on. All right, moving on. Sanjuti, will you be able to read?
Yes, Prabhu.
Do you want to recite the verse?
No, this is the no, I can
Fourth chapter,
recite.
second verse.
Yeah.
Or I can also recite.
No, Prabhu, I can.
Okay.
Ebang parampara prapto mimang rajarshyo bidang shokale neho mahota jogo nashtam parantupo. Translation. This supreme science was thus received through the chain of disciplic succession and the saintly kings understood it in that way. But in course of time, the succession was broken, and therefore the science as it is appears to be lost. Purport: it is clearly stated that the Gita was specially meant for the saintly kings because they were to execute its purpose in ruling over the citizens. Certainly, Bhagavad Gita was never meant for the demonic persons who would dissipate its value for no one's benefit and would devise all types of interpretations according to personal whims. As soon as the original purpose was scattered by the motives of the unscrupulous commentators, there arose the need to reestablish the disciplic succession. 5,000 years ago, it was detected by the Lord Himself that the disciplic succession was broken, and therefore He declared that the purpose of the Gita appeared to be lost. In the same way, at the present moment, also, there are so many editions of the Gita, especially in English, but almost all of them are not according to authorized disciplic succession. There are innumerable interpretations rendered by different mundane scholars, but almost all of them do not accept the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, although they make a good business on the words of Sri Krishna. This spirit is demonic because demons do not believe in God but simply enjoy the property of the Supreme. Since there is a great need of an edition of the Gita in English, as it is received by the Parampara, disciplic succession system, an attempt is made herewith to fulfill this great want. Bhagavad Gita, accepted as it is a great boon to the humanity, but if it is accepted as a treatise of philosophical speculations, it is simply a waste of time.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Sanjati. I'll try to summarize and highlight a few important points from this purport. It's already 9:21, but I'll try to do it quickly. So now Krishna is saying that how this supreme knowledge was thus supposed to be received through disciplic succession and saintly kings. We discussed as part of the last purport as to why this was meant for kings who were supposed to execute its purpose over ruling its citizens. So it is very important over here that he declared that the purpose of the Gita appeared to be lost. Over here, the Gita being lost did not just mean that the verses itself was lost, but this transcendental knowledge in terms of how one should conduct one's life and behavior, that was lost over time. And that's why Krishna came again, and 5,000 years ago, he again recited this Bhagavad Gita. We need to study these scriptures in disciplic succession not because it is just like a copy that I give it to you and you learn it. We learn it in disciplic succession because that helps us understand from us, from someone who has learned this in the proper format in order to how he should conduct his life. He will teach that to the next person, and that is what the disciplic succession is. The teacher will teach the student, and that is the same principle that we discussed yesterday at the end of our reading, that how when we come to such meetings, when we come to in association of devotees, we learn from each other, we learn from their behavior, how do we apply this knowledge and how do we conduct our lives. And therefore this disciplic succession is very important. And when this was lost, Krishna came again and he spoke the Bhagavad Gita. And therefore it is said that we have to accept Bhagavad Gita as it is, and then it becomes a great boon for the humanity. But if it is accepted just as a philosophical speculation or something that helps you with some kind of logical arguments or something like that, that loses the purpose of the Bhagavad Gita in itself. So that's why we try to study that's why if you read, the title of the book is Bhagavad Gita as it is. And we try to study under the spiritual disciplic lineage that starts from Lord Brahma. If you read as part of the introduction, if you remember, we did it in the very first class session, the introduction where we scoped out the lineage where this Bhagavad Gita comes. I hope this makes sense. Thank you so much for your kind attention and waiting. I'm sorry I went a little over time. If anyone has any other questions, any comments, please feel free to add.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. So what is actually the inner meaning of this verse that who are uh, mm, so who have the demonic nature, so who do not believe in Krishna. So uh,
Uh, is your I did not get the question completely. Is the question meaning that what does this mean that certainly Bhagavad Gita was never meant for demoniac persons?
uh, so actually so what is actually stated here in the Bengali Gita, that that actually here in the verse, that is very the meaning is very short here, but the in this purport it's very elaborated, very actually the meaning is very widely elaborated here. So
Mhm.
what is actually the actual meaning of this verse?
Uh, I did not understand the question. I'm sorry. Could you rephrase your
Yeah, I
question?
think I think Sinjuti is reading from a Bengali version of Bhagavad Gita. I'm not sure what book is it. So in that the meaning is little different than what is given here, is what you're saying, right? Is that what
Hmm.
your question?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So which book is that? I mean, what is the that is it Gita Press book or which book is that exactly which you're reading?
This is also Srimad Bhagavad Gita.
No, I mean who has translated it?
Who has translated it?